and run. And how do you do that? 4 to 6 seconds, 28 to 20 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We are live. It is Thursday, and we have an All-American coming to campus. We have a freshman All-American from Ole Miss at a huge position of need in cornerback, 6'2", 185. Super excited about this one. This is one that just popped up on the radar tonight on BuckeyeScoop.com. He is visiting kind of the who's who of college football right now, but Ohio State feels really good about what they see in him and what they hear, and that depth chart is a barren wasteland. So with that being said, I think that the Bucs are going to pull out all the stops for this kid, and I'm super excited about him. That being said, as always, we're very thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you guys for being a part of us with us tonight. If you would, please leave us a like and subscribe to the channel. Those are both huge for us. The page has been growing magnificently, all thanks to you. Comment down below, what do we need more, corners or tackles? Tackles or corners? Those seem to be the two positions that everybody's worried about. I think that the offensive line will be fine. I am not as sure about the cornerback room, so this kid showing up is a big get. Again, he's a 4-star kid, played a ton for Ole Miss, was a freshman All-American. His name is Davison Igbinosun, and he is from Jersey, Union, New Jersey. Went down to Ole Miss for a year, had a good year, freshman All-American, and now he is looking around. Some of these guys, they play over their initial offer list, and he looks like he's one of them. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you?
Doing great. I'm glad that you were able to pronounce that last name, the Davison Igwebuiginisin, and that was well done, Mr. Barton. You were working on that all afternoon. I can tell.
Well, it's like Sabino, like Etienne Sabino. So it's IG, like Iggy Azalea or Instagram Live. Then Bino, B-I-N-O, and then Sun, like the rising sun. So it's easy, Igbino Sun. So now that I have it, Davison Igbigo Sun is a guy at a huge position of need. Nevada, how big would it be to get this kid to commit to Ohio State and help shore up that back end?
It'd be enormous on so many different levels. And the good news is Ohio State realizes it, and they're going to pull out all the stops on this one. They're rolling out the red carpet. They're going to throw the bag at the kid. And if they don't get him, it won't be for lack of trying. But Ohio State's definitely going to put their best foot forward. You're talking about a guy who came in out of New Jersey, was a freshman All-American at Ole Miss, playing at a position of need where they've got a spot for him to walk right in and start on a team that's going to be a heavy favorite to be in the top 2 or 3 next year, and right there to be the national champion. So I think it's there's a lot to offer him. There's a lot that would entice him to come. Obviously, you've got stiff competition with anytime you've got Tennessee or USC or UCLA and there's other schools that are in the mix. But Ohio State feels like they've got a chip in a chair, and they're going to pull out all the stops to get.
What would you do? So far, we've been decent in the portal. What would you do if you ran NIL? If you were Mark Piantoni, what would you do to try to up the proficiency of the guys that we offer? And again, I know some of it is we just flat out don't promise guys jobs, which some schools do, and then they yank the rug out from under them when they don't start. But what would you do? Would you change that strategy? Would you, obviously, it's easy to say go raise more money and pay more for these kids, but what would you do?
Well, I think, again, we try to avoid NIL discussions because we know that people tune off as soon as we start talking about NIL. But basically, NIL is really 3 different things. It's payments for existing players on the roster. It's payment for high school seniors that you want to get on as recruits. And then in this case, it's payments for portal or transfer kids. And I just would focus each one of my collectives on each one of those objectives, have them to understand exactly what they're supposed to do, and then let her rip. But I think you can't have all 3 collectives doing a little bit of nothing. I think you've just got to have each one of them specialized. That's what I would do if I was NIL king for a day. And from an Ohio State perspective with this kid, I just say, look, you want to play at the highest level, you want to have a chance to win a national championship, and nobody's put more cornerbacks in the league than Ohio State. And so we're CBU for a reason. Come here and let's reconstitute Stevie U, be an All-American in Ohio State and be a legend in Ohio, and that pay dividends your whole life. So I know that'll be part of the pitch, and hopefully he's listening.
Do you think that you should promise this kid a starting job? Freshman All American from Ole Miss. I mean, seems pretty
It
proficient.
I mean, I normally say you never would promise to get a starting job, but I think this is almost like that Justin Fields situation where Justin Fields came in, wanted assurances that he was going to start, after kind of his experiences there at Georgia, and they said, "Yeah, you're the guy, you're the starter, and goodbye, Mr. Tater, and goodbye, Matt Baldwin." And in this case, yeah, I would promise him a starting job and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I think that seems like the optimal move, just because we just really need another corner. Like, I mean, obviously, I think Jordan Hancock still has a shot to prove that he can do something, but some of these guys got to step up and get going in their careers. I mean, that was a surprisingly weak position last year. I mean, Denzel Burke's a guy that I think was, we had very high hopes for. We're talking All American preseason. That didn't materialize. So a lot of these guys, they're trying to, be in their bag this year and be 3-and-out and be like kind of the old guard of corners like Marshawn Lattimore and Denzel Ward and some of these guys that were superstars. And I think we got to work to get back to that. And for those of you on YouTube right now, we're watching. This is his film. Again, he's from Jersey, so this is Ole Miss. I don't generally think that they're a huge power of getting guys from the good schools in Jersey, but he's a Jersey kid, so I do think that helps more so than if he was a kid from the South, Georgia, Florida, Bama, Louisiana. I think we'd have about no chance of getting him. But yeah, we've had a lot of attrition in that room. There's a lot of kind of turmoil in that room right now, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. I think that again, we're a few cover guys away from really being good next year. And again, I know everyone always worries about the line just because that's their nature, but I think that our line's going to be fine. I really do. Nevada, we talked a little bit about yesterday. You had a nugget, kind of a support staff nugget, talking about one of the greatest Buckeyes of all time, James Laurinaitis. Talk a little bit about the effort Ryan Day is putting forth to kind of backfill some of the positions that were, a lot of those guys got promoted. They became full-time coaches for Kevin Wilson. There's a kid moved down to Minnesota. Some of these guys, they're progressing in their coaching careers. Generally, you don't put down roots for very long especially as a young coach. But talk a little bit about, the backfilling and what kind of strategy would you have if you're Ryan Day with your top 10 coaches that are eligible to go on the road to recruit, and then your young coaches, your quality controls, and your GAs.
Well, it's interesting because Dave's really making a heavy emphasis on kids that and young men that have connections to Ohio State, that have connections to Ohio football, to try to reestablish the culture and really deepen the culture within the room. And James Laurinaitis is a guy that's a big target for him. And we talked about this before, but James had wanted to come work at Ohio State and had reached out a number of times and really hadn't had the interest reciprocated. And a lot of that was because Ryan was concerned that if you put James in the linebacker room, that the linebackers would be looking to him and not be listening to Al Washington. And there was a concern that he would kind of overshadow the existing coach in the room. And I think that they don't have those concerns with Jim Knowles. They're looking, I think they're a little bit more secure with what they have from having an elder statesman like that in the linebacker room. And now I think the reception for James may be a little bit more, more fruitful. They're leaning forward a little bit more. And he's certainly a guy that I think would be a great, addition to the staff. And, we've talked about how the NCAA is kind of loosening up or potentially loosening up all these rules on the support staff regarding, on-field coaching, potentially on recruiting, on numbers. And, if you're going to start adding numbers of guys, beyond your 10, a guy like James Laurinaitis would have to be 10A or 10B or 11 or whatever it is. But that's a guy that you want. I mean, you look at Brian Hartline and the success he had, and there's no reason to believe that James Laurinaitis couldn't be every bit as successful as Ryan Hartline is, just on a different side of the ball. He's that impressive. He's that persuasive, and his knowledge base is that deep. So I think it'd be a great ad for Ohio State, and certainly an indication that Ryan Day is kind of getting the whole importance of having those Ohio connections and that Ohio State culture, which is so important to the program.
Yeah, I think James is a guy that has no ceiling when it comes to being a coach. He really didn't have a ceiling. As a player, he was a guy that played 10-ish years in the NFL. He was a great captain at Ohio State, three-time All-American. Just a fantastic player. He's a great teammate. I was actually a captain with him in '07 when he was a junior captain. I was a senior. But just a kid that does everything the right way. And, when he said he wanted to sink his teeth into the coaching profession, I was like, dude, you're going to be a head coach, sooner than you think. And Marcus Freeman is his best friend. So Marcus, got the job at Notre Dame. And, if you're James, I think that if you can stay, with Marcus, who is, your best friend, and he's, the guy that you've grown up with, and he's already, a superstar in the profession, being the head coach at Notre Dame at such a young age. I think that, James sees a similar path for himself. And I think that he's a guy that, my biggest concern about the current coaching staff is, I don't know how good some of the recruiters are. Like, some of the guys are getting older. I think James would be an injection of nitrous into the veins of our recruiting, especially on the defensive side. Where we got a couple older guys that aren't big time social media guys, and James is he's not a big social media guy, but he's a big name. He walks in, talks to people. Coaches remember who he was, and players remember who he was, and they can look him up and say, yeah, this guy. When he says something, he's a first round pick, played 10 years in the league, a three-time All-American, and was one of the most intelligent linebackers in school history easily. I mean, he was a guy that was always in the right spot, studied film religiously. And those guys usually translate into being really solid coaches, because he wasn't just like a physical traits guy that was just so physically overwhelming that he was good. But I think that it'd be real interesting, because like I think that if you bring in James Laurinaitis and you make him a top 10 coach, then all of a sudden it's like you have a Brian Hartline for defense. So, because when one of these guys that's a superstar comes back and coaches at his alma mater, then it's more testimony than theory. Say, look, I went to Ohio State. This is how my life turned out. I had 10 years in the league, beautiful family, millions of dollars in the bank. Now I get to coach here and grow and prosper. And you see what it did like for Luke Fickell's career. Mike Vrabel started there. I think it's just easier to recruit when it's your alma mater. Now, I lived it, when I did it for 3 years, and I loved it. It's a lot easier to be authentic when you're somewhere that you actually do love, and somewhere that you actually did, you were a captain there. And I always wonder, like, when a guy like Brett Bielema goes to Wisconsin or Illinois, and he played football at Iowa. It's like, it's always kind of funny. It's like with Luke at Wisconsin, like he has to sell Wisconsin even though he himself didn't pick Wisconsin. So, but I'm excited. I think that the prospects of James potentially coming back would be great. I think that it's tough when you've got Luke Fickell and Marcus Freeman at two really good jobs right now, and who knows, if they'll have a more prominent role for him now. But it'll be interesting to watch who we bring in to backfill the support staff. Nevada, this point of the offseason is always interesting, because there's always some guys that are on the grind. There's guys that are it's winter conditioning. It's a tough time of the year. These guys are getting broke off by Mickey Marotti. What do you do this time of the year to help Ohio State supporters kind of cope with there not being football? Because we're always digging for info and coaching stuff and the portal. To me, the portal's been a godsend for just new, fresh information to talk about every day. Like, we're running this entire podcast based on a kid that entered the portal that could visit Ohio State. But what's your advice to Ohio State fans other than join BuckeyeScoop.com?
Well, I just think now, like you said, with the transfer portal, the transfer portal period, is going to take us right into, the heart of winter conditioning. And then before you know it, we're going to be kicking it off for spring ball. And after spring ball, we're going to have another transfer portal transfer period. So we're going to have another outflow of guys from Ohio State and an inflow of guys from other schools. And then we're into summer conditioning and fall camp, and it's going to be going. But no, it's look, there's just no off season anymore. There used to be a time when the last game would go, and it would be a long cold winter until you kind of got there to back to some football. But now there's really no off season, and from running the site, it's like it's like every day there's some other news breaking, whether it be coaching movement. You got to remember too, we have another signing day coming up, so it's like you've got a signing day, you've got coach movement, you've got portal movement, you've got winter conditioning. So yeah, lots going on, more so than any other time before. There's been so many changes in college football, but from an entertainment standpoint, it never stops. It's 24/7, 365. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll take some questions. So this is a good question. So I couldn't get his Ole Miss tape. No, great question. I love the name Kia's Fresh or whatever. He says I couldn't get the Ole Miss tape. I could not get the tape. So this is literally, but I figured since he's 1 year out of high school, this isn't totally stale tape. This is from literally a year ago when he was a high school senior. He played his true freshman year at Ole Miss. So this is the quickest thing I could find of him cut up for 11 minutes. So, I think
Well, what was like? You could get the tape, just you would be violating all the copyright rules.
well,
It's like, yeah, we could
yeah,
run it right now, but then we'd have the YouTube censor bots attacking us tonight, and we'd be
yeah,
like, hey, look at this great Ole Miss son, and then all of a sudden the YouTube bots would come and shut us down. So yeah,
yeah.
that's generally the way that it works on all that copyrighted material. That's why this huddle film's better.
It really is. Mark, I appreciate you being on here, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Army All American Bowl. Um, Nevada, Frank Wright gets the Panthers job. I thought the Panthers job was the best job that was open with the draft capital that they have. They stunk this past year, and they kind of they went full. They traded Christian McCaffrey. They gutted the roster. A lot of draft capital, a lot of cap space, some decent young parts there. Uh, Thoughts on CJ Stroud potentially landing with the Carolina Panthers? They've got a young left tackle who's really good. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? It'd be interesting.
I actually think that'd be a great spot for CJ. And I think
So,
obviously you don't have the weight of expectations in that situation. And Carolina's not a dumpster fire. You know what I'm saying? You've got, I think he could grow and they'd kind of give him time to grow. And, Carolina showed a little bit of gumption there down the stretch, winning some games when everybody thought that they had no business winning games. Now, I'm not talking about stupidly winning like the Texans throwing the Hail Mary and then going for two to win, that type of thing. But I mean, Carolina just went out and one game were just better than teams down the stretch. So I think that's a spot where that's a team that could get good in a hurry, and I think that'd be a great landing spot for CJ.
yeah, I agree. I think CJ, again, they just spent a high first round pick on a left tackle who's a really good player. I think that helps. They've invested in their offensive line, which helps. The running game wasn't terrible. I had Deontay Foreman in fantasy. He was pretty good, for most of the year. And they got DJ Moore, so they have like a big time, first round wide receiver. So there are parts there. I just think that, in the NFL anymore, man, it's like if you're not going to be competitive to win a Super Bowl, it's better just to tear the whole thing down and get picks and get rid of payroll. It's kind of like what the Bears did. I think the Bears are going to be really good in a couple of years because they tore everything down except for Justin Fields. They got the number one pick, but they got rid of Roquan, which I thought was crazy. But Roquan to send for $100 million, and if the Bears are going to stink for the next 4 or 5 years, you might as well go all the way, go full stink. And Justin Fields will be entering year 3, so we'll see what they can get out of him.
Yeah, but explain to me on the Bears. The Bears trade Roquan. They're going, like you said, they're going full suck mode, and then they trade for Claypool. Like, what was
that
that?
was totally idiotic. I can't explain that. And Ryan Poles and I we were training camp teammates in Chicago. He got cut in training camp. I made the team. But so I've known Ryan. It's funny. I knew Ryan when he was literally absolutely nobody. Like he played at Boston College. He was the kid that Ohio State actually wanted. He was the kid that a lot of people on Bucknuts wanted. They wanted Ryan Poles. He was in my recruiting class, kid from New York, ends up going to BC. He stunk as a player. Started, I think, maybe 1 year at BC and he just wasn't very good. But he is now the general manager of the Chicago Bears, which will never not be hilarious to me. Just because I knew Ryan before anybody knew Ryan. But I don't know. Like a second round pick for Chase Claypool has got to be one of the worst trades I've ever seen. Just because a really second round pick that's a good starter in the NFL. And is Chase Claypool a guy who's kind of getting towards the end of his rookie deal? And are you going to re-up him and pay him now? And because that's the thing that the Bills general manager talked about, and he's right, is that the Bengals have a small window to be really good because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are on the rookie deals. So when you got to pay Joe Burrow $50 million a year and you got to pay Chase $20 million a year, then that's $70 million instead of say they're making, I don't know, $15 million this year. It just it completely whacks out the rest of your roster because you have to cut really good players to absorb that salary hit, and it's tough. And and like with the Bears, they're gonna have a decision to make on Justin Fields in 2 years because I mean he's gonna be end of his fourth year. He's got one more year left in his fourth year. They're gonna decide if they want to do the fifth year option or not, if they want to extend him. And there was a thought, Mike Lombardi from NFL.com said he would trade Fields now if he could get a 1 and a 3 for him and reset and take Bryce Young at number 1 overall. So I mean, that clock ticks as soon as you take that rookie quarterback, man. It is like the clock is ticking for how long can you take to build it up and while your quarterback's still on the rookie deal? Because you see these deals that go out for some of these starting quarterbacks, like Kyler Murray's making $45 million a year, and you're just like, oh my God, that team is going to be in salary cap hell for the rest of their lives because of that big deal. But no, your thoughts on the teardown thing, because some of those interesting things. I don't think Urban, as bad as everyone says he was in Jacksonville, it was a dumpster fire. His teardown and some of the picks he hit on are really good. Like Walker Little, their left tackle, is really good. I mean, he was fantastic. And obviously Lawrence was an easy pick, but some of their middle round guys that they picked in some of their free agent signings have actually turned out to be really good players. And I think that he'll never get any credit for it just because of how everything ended and some of the stuff in the middle of the year. But I mean, I think the full teardown and build back is the way to really get a shot to win the thing, but you just have to stink for a little bit, which nobody really wants to do. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? You are on mute.
I think that's what you got to do. I think it's the only way to do it.
Yep.
Because like I said, you only have that window's only open just for a short period of time, and then after that, you're done.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys keep firing away with these questions. I know it, and it's funny. Like I agree with this. I think Urban, if he would have stayed in Jacksonville, I mean, again, they beat the Buffalo Bills last year. His 1 year in Jacksonville when they stunk, they somehow beat Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and like a really good Buffalo team. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously it didn't work. It was a miserable ending and an embarrassing ending, but I agree. I think that, he had, when he took that job, he had a lot of draft capital, a lot of first round picks, second round picks, and he had a ton of cap space. So if you have that and you can go out and sign Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and all these guys that turned out to be really good parts, then, and he didn't get the credit I mean, everyone panned him when he took Travis Etienne, but Etienne was really good this year. And they traded, he saw James Robinson, who was an undrafted guy and kind of a rookie phenom, and he basically stunk. I think he tore his Achilles last year, but this year they traded him for literally nothing to the Jets. So
No, my favorite comment when they were talking, I think they were quoting Peterson or they were quoting somebody, and they were like, the room was so broken, I wasn't even sure if anybody would show up to camp this
oh
year. And
my God.
it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, wow. None of the guys are going to show up because Urban was so mean to them. They're not going to come get their
Oh my
money.
God.
It's like, what a bunch of drama.
Dude, I used to love working out in the off season because they pay you like $200 a day to work out, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Because what am I? And again, I was the lowest guy on the totem pole. I was the bottom of the roster guy. But like, what am I gonna do? Stay home and not work out? And plus, like, if you're a bottom of the roster dude, you don't miss anything. Like the only guys that miss stuff are like Tom Brady and like some guy that's at the very top of the food chain and he's got that kind of yank. But if you're a guy that's bottom of the roster, man, you are not missing workouts. You're at every workout. And so I did think that was a little traumatic by Doug Peterson. It was like, I wasn't even sure if we could ever get anybody to come up because everyone's so sad because Urban was a big meanie. I'm like, good God. I was like none of their high school coaches or college coaches ever yelled at him. Come on.
Now, Kirk, here I've got 3 players for you. I want you to tell me where they go in the first round. Okay, C.J. Stroud, Paris Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Where do you think they go?
Uh, I love the thought of Paris going to Tennessee because then I can watch him and Nick Petit Frere, two of the 5-star tackles that Greg Soudoir brought in, recruited here. Both on the same team. That would be fantastic. I think CJ Stroud. It's weird because with free agency and everything, it's tough because I people like there's mocks that have him going to the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to get Brady or Rodgers. I really do. I think that they're going to go for Showtime and the Brady thing just makes a lot of sense. I mean, with Rodgers reuniting with Devontae makes a ton of sense, but I I think Carolina's a great fit for CJ because they've got a good left tackle already. It's a young team. I don't think Houston would be terrible, but it really depends on who they hire as a coach. Like honestly, I kind of just want to see who the Colts hire and who the Texans hire because these guys that these teams need quarterbacks and it kind of depends on who the head coaches are. Because with some of these head coaches that get hired that are total morons, like I wouldn't want CJ Stroud to go there, because the guy's going to get fired in 2 years and then CJ is going to be set on the treadmill of average for the rest of his life. But I mean, Atlanta looks good. I mean, I don't think that's a great situation because I think their offensive line's terrible. But I mean, Carolina is really intriguing. I mean, and again, are the Bears going to stay at number 1? I can't imagine. I'm sure everyone always says, "Oh, just trade down," but it's easier said than done. Just because when you don't have the capital, or we don't have a trading partner, like I mean, there isn't really a superstar guy at the top that people are going to be dying to trade up and give another second round pick or another future first round pick to move up for. So, Jackson is so weird because, the stupidity of the draft is already kicking off where they're saying Jackson Smith and Jig was going to be like a second round pick. Like Todd Pache said that today. And I'm like, dude, I mean, I look at 15, the Green Bay Packers, who needs a receiver more than the Green Bay Packers? They've got him take, Mel Kiper saying has him taking Michael Mayer, tight end. And it's like, I think Tunion's fine. I mean, I'm sure if you're at 15 and the Packers pass on Jackson Smith and Jigba, Nevadabuck, big Packers fan, you'd probably go into conniptions, I'd imagine. But what do you think, Nevada? So I want Tennessee for Paris. God, I just think CJ with Carolina makes so much sense. But I don't know. Carolina's probably going to have to move up from 9, I'd imagine. And then, Jackson Smith and Jigba at 15. But like the Will Levis thing is hilarious because everybody thinks he stinks, but he's going to be the guy this year that everyone's going to say, oh, imagine if he had, if he played at Ohio State and he had Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka. Like there's always these guys that, I think CJ Stroud kind of gets knocked down a touch because his weapons were so good, because Ryan Day is so good, because the Big Ten stinks. And guys like Levis who play at Kentucky where their O-line was terrible, their skill was terrible this year. He didn't have Wendell Robinson. He didn't have the good offensive line that he had the year before. He gets bumped up because they like to do these. Well, imagine if CJ played for Kentucky and didn't have, all these great weapons and Levis played at Ohio State. He'd have won the Heisman. Like that's kind of the games that these guys, they do that with like Zach Wilson and all these guys that just come out of nowhere and they end up Trey Lance. They go above Justin Fields and they go above guys that we watched and we think, well, God, that guy's really good. I can't believe Justin Fields fell that far. And then you look back and you're like, what were the 49ers thinking? Are they just stupid, or the Jets? I mean, it's crazy. Where do you think they're going to land, Nevada?
Well, to me, obviously CJ and Paris are like, look, they're gonna go high. Let's talk about Jackson Smith and Jigga just for a second. Then we'll work our way back up. I mean, you've got JSN. So on the bad, let's go look on the bad side. On the bad side, missed his senior year due to injuries. That's bad. You don't have senior stuff to look at. That's bad. We don't know how he's going to run. Whether he's going to run at the combine, I'm assuming it is, but how he runs at the combine. But let's assume he runs well at the combine. If he runs well at the combine, how do you not take him in that Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams spot? Because he's the same guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's the same guy. I mean, if you ask Olave and Wilson, they'll say Jackson Smith and Jig was Yeah, they've said it. They think that he's better than those two, and those two guys were turned out to be pretty good NFL players. So, I if he's sitting there at 15 and the Packers don't pick him, then yeah, I'm gonna feel much like I did when they traded up to take Jordan Love and passed on T Higgins and did it to no I think Jackson goes top 15 for sure. I think Paris goes top 10. Um, Tennessee, as much as they love to run the ball, would love to get them. I mean, there's somebody who's really gonna covet a player like that, and for CJ, I, you know, I mean Houston. I just think Houston's got to take them. I think they can't not take him. But Bryce Young's a good player. But if I'm taking it, it's between Bryce Young and CJ, it'd be hard. It'd be hard not to take Bryce Young. I mean, let me put that back in you, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Who you picking your GM for your NFL team?
Am I the GM of the Houston Texans?
Yes.
I mean, I'd take Stroud. I
Would
just
you?
think he's a pure thrower. You got Larry Tunsil, the best left tackle in the game. Um, you're playing in a dome for half the season, which is huge. And really they play the Colts too, so that's a dome. Jacksonville's warm weather, so for the throwing game, you're in the dome a lot, which helps. But the hardest part with CJ is is he gonna run? Because again, everyone thinks, oh, you can't run, you can't run. I'm like, well, he better run because in the NFL, the ends and tackles are so much more athletic and so much better. The defensive schemes are better. And these quarterbacks get hit a lot. So I mean, if you're just gonna think you're not gonna be able to escape the rush, like that's the one thing with Bryce Young, he's more athletic. Now the flip is he's also very small. He's like Tua Junior, so and Tua is about one concussion away from being shelved for the rest of his career because he's really been beat up by the Dolphins so far this year. And these little thin guys, these frail guys, they don't make it. Like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. I mean, these guys get injured, they get hit. It's a big man's game, and that's why guys like Roethlisberger play 20 years, and these little guys last for 5-6 years, and they're done. Roethlisberger, Brady, those guys are hulks. Phillip Rivers, 6'4". The big, strong guys are the guys that can last. Like you need a little bit of padding. Dan Marino lasted forever in the league, but that's it's a great question. Well, we got to wrap this. I know you had a hard stop at.
No,
At
we can we can
yours.
keep going. I got another
Well,
15 minutes. We can
all
take
right,
some more questions. Well, let's do
perfect.
it.
Well, we got a super chat that I had to get before we're done. It's David Green Show. Do you think Donnie Jackson will need to play left tackle? You put a gun to my head and ask me who's going to be the starting left tackle week 1. I'm going to say it's going to be Zen, and Donnie's going to be the left guard. I just think that they like the length out there. I think that the stuff that I've heard from people that I trust on the offensive line of Woody Hayes, like they really want Zen to win the job. So I think that in my world, if I was Justin Fry and filling out the lineup card day 1, I put Zen at left tackle, I put Donnie at left guard, I put Matt Jones at center, Enoch at right guard, and then right tackle you got to go Josh Fryer, and then you rotate in the Cutler kid who came from Louisiana Monroe. I mean, I can't imagine you guaranteed him a starting spot. You rotate him in as the second team left tackle, second team center. Then you maybe try him at center the next day with Matt Jones at right guard. And maybe you put Donnie out at left tackle for a day, every other day, alternate with Zen. But really, I mean, they want Zen to win the job. So, if Zen can do it, he'll do it, and we'll be in good shape. But I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him, and I'm telling you, like he's got JT2 Malo out, and he's got Jack Sawyer every day in practice. So, when you're going against guys like that, you got to eat your Wheaties and be ready to roll because it is going to be a mofo in practice every day. That's kind of the best part about going to Ohio State is like you treat every practice like a game. You have to. Like when I played there, I had as much anxiety and nerves and all that for practice as I did a game because if you don't show up in a major way, then you can get smacked. So it's tough. It just it kind of is what it is. So I I don't know. I think that with my druthers, I think they want Zen to win it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think And Donnie, I guess the big question really is, do you think Donnie Jackson sees himself in the NFL projected out to being a guard or a tackle? Not that he needs to kind of make that decision right now, or that really impacts him too heavily in terms of his playing. But you know, it,
Yeah.
it it seems pretty obvious to me he'll be a guard in the NFL. And again, not that playing tackle would hurt his ability to play it in the NFL, in college. But no, I'm with you. I think they really want Zen to be the guy, and hopefully he steps up. And if he is able to step into that spot, then the line's deep and talented, and we're not going to have any problems at all. So I'll be rooting for him to have a good spring.
Yeah, I think that you get Zen and Josh out there, we'll be fine. Again, like you guys have to remember, the year that we won the national title, we started Jacoby Boren, who was a 2-star, Daryl Baldwin, who was a 2 or 3-star defensive tackle, freshman year Billy Price, sophomore Elfline. I mean, it wasn't like we rolled out Orlando Pace and Corey Stringer and whoever. I mean, like this wasn't like a line. I mean, everybody. The funny thing about this year and all the anxiety around the offensive line in 2023 is it reminds me of 2014. Like, I mean, I remember we lost Muhort and Norwell and Lindsley. And those guys were all Big Ten players, all really good players. Turns out Corey Lindsley becomes the highest paid center in history of the NFL. Norwell becomes the highest paid guard in the history of the NFL. Jack Muhort's second round pick. And Marcus Hall is a very serviceable guy that bounced around the NFL for a little bit. So it's like, we lose those guys, and a lot of anxiety around Woody Hayes and around the Buckeye stratosphere of people that support Ohio State and root for Ohio State. But it turns out that line won a national title. So this is why Justin Fry makes a lot of money. That's why he does a really good job, and this is why they call you coach, because you gotta, whatever cards you're dealt, man, you got to get rocking and you got to go deal them out. And they still might pick up another portal guy after spring ball. There's going to be guys that are angry. Not just in Ohio State, but just across the country. There's going to be guys that are upset with their perceived roles on the team, and they're going to go jump in the portal. And you got to go after some of these guys. And I'm sure we'll lose a handful of guys because that's just the natural cycle of college football now. There's guys that'll, they think they should be second team, or they think they should be, getting reps with the ones, and they don't get reps, they don't get turns, they don't, and they get upset. And then, their uncle says, hey, you should transfer to Ole Miss, you should transfer to Florida or wherever. And they do. So it is something that it's part of the new part of college football.
No, but I was thinking about something today, Kirk. And we talked a little bit about this before, but I've been kind of going through my memory banks, and I'm like, we lost 3 offensive linemen early that still had eligibility. Still lost 3 guys last year, and I'm trying to think about, in the history of Ohio State football, how many times have we lost offensive linemen early to the NFL that still had eligibility? And I think it was the only 3 I could come up with were like Pace, Stringer, I think, and Michael Jordan.
That's all I can come up with. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't happen.
So
we
you're
lost Josh Myers, left early, Wyatt, but those guys are after 4 years. So, but still, that's having guys take off like this is absolutely crazy. And again, it's like when people say, what are you supposed to do with the room? And we don't have any players. I'm like, well, yeah, because they're all too good and they'll leave a year before they're supposed to. So it kind of it mixes up your projections when you do that.
But it's just funny to me that for a room that's been so maligned and just so trashed for the past 5 years, like we're just cranking guys out to the NFL like steaks at a slaughterhouse in Chicago or something like that. I mean, it's crazy how much talent has come through that room. And we sent 4 guys early between Nick and the 3 guys that went this year. In the last 2 years, we sent 4 guys. We've sent multiple stars to the NFL, multiple picks, and this is supposed to be a room where our recruiting was terrible, our coach was sleeping, and nobody was there, and it was a barren wasteland. And it's been, short of the wide receiver room, it's been the most productive room of any in Ohio State and Ohio State history. But still, we complain. But I digress.
It's just a stupid narrative made by stupid people. That's all it is. I mean, come on, like just look at the numbers. We've had more over the last 7-8 years. We've had more all Big Ten offensive linemen, first, second, third team, honorable mention. We've had more of those. We've had more draft picks, more first round picks, more major award winners. We won the center award twice with Elfline and Billy Price back to back, the Remington Award. So I mean, I don't know. I just think people are stupid, and it's a lazy narrative. And I know where it started, so I'm not going to go down that road. But it's just obvious that, like, there's some people that don't like people, and they start saying, "Well, he doesn't do this or that," and I'm like, "Well, I don't care." It's like if you're a sales guy and you show up for 15 minutes a year and you sell more than anybody, and then you go on vacation for the other 364 days. I'm good with that. I don't care. If you show up to work and you crush it for the 2 minutes that you're there, and then you go home and take a nap and eat Doritos, then good with me. As long as your numbers, because I'm a numbers guy. I'm not this or that, or because people lie, but numbers don't. When you look at the draft picks, what metric do you want to go? Draft picks? Do you want to go number one overall in total offense, rushing yardage? You want to go All Americans, All Big Ten? I don't know. I mean, number of 5-stars. And we had more 5-stars in the last 8 years in the offensive line room than we probably did in the previous 40. We just don't get a lot of 5-star offensive linemen because there's not a lot in Ohio. You got to go get them out of state. You got to go get Nick Petit out of Tampa. I mean, Paris is, the one in a million that's actually in the state of Ohio, but then it's slim pickings. So, but no, I totally agree. I mean, it's just an interesting thing. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys. You ready to wrap?
All right, let's keep going.
Sue's got a question.
We got a question. Who do you project as our starting safeties?
Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
I'm doing it. Who are you going with, Kirk?
Oh God. Well, I mean, you think obviously Lathan's one. That's an easy one, and then it's is it Jihad? Does he take the spot? Is it Sonny? Is it Kai Stokes? Is it? I mean, there's a lot of guys back there. Proctor's back. I mean, if you put a gun in my head, I go Lathan, Kai Stokes, and Sonny Styles, and I'm happy with that. Big athletes, cover a lot of ground. Put Kai at free safety. I think he'd be excellent at that. So those are my picks. Who are you picking?
I'm going Lathan, Jihad Carter, and Josh Proctor. Those are my three.
That'll be.
I don't know how Proctor came back for a 6-year. I don't know why he would possibly come back unless he had a pretty good assurance that he was going to be starting. Now, again, nobody could be more wrong on Josh Proctor than I was this year, so maybe I'm just doubling down on stupid. But I think he's a heck of a player. I think he's a big-time impact guy. I think when you're looking for big plays and turnovers and guys that can kind of create that kind of mayhem, he's a guy that can do that. And he didn't get a chance to do it this year, so I look like a big zero on that one. But I'm going to double down and go Josh Proctor having a big year in 2023 one more time.
Yeah, but that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in Ohio State history is when Jim Knowles literally on August 12th says he has a chance to be the best safety in the entire country. Like first round. I mean, his quote literally was he has a chance to be the best safety in the country. So that in my head means first round, All-American, major award type guy. And after one play, man, he got yanked and we never saw him again. And so that was, of all the weird stuff I've been around, how a guy could have that glowy of a praise and that glowy of a comment to banished until we're beating Rutgers by 85 points. Like, I don't know. It never made sense to me. So I would love for him to live up to his promise and be that guy. I mean, he was a guy that was a monster coming out, and I've heard great things about him. So it just is, it's just one of those things. So, well, I'm going to wrap this thing up. We appreciate you guys as always. I'm actually going to ring back on with Bill the Bank Greene. We have another podcast that we're going to start here in about 5 minutes. So if you guys want to stay tuned, there will be a fresh link on buckeyescoop.com. I agree with you. I think Sonny Styles has to play. He has to be on the field somewhere, somehow, some way. I appreciate that, David. So you guys hang on for a second. I'm going to get Bill the Bank Greene in here. But again, as always, we appreciate you guys. Please leave us a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on an audio format, please leave us a 5-star review. And again, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will be back in about 5 minutes with Bill the Bank Greene, and he will be taking your recruiting questions. So thank you guys. You guys have a good one.